Okay. So this is a basically a free introduction to numerology or tantric numerology, and I just a little bit about my relationship to this. To I've been actually basically providing consultation to clients as well as teaching the system itself for over a decade. I've been introduced to it about almost 20 years ago. And it's probably numerology is a big field, but tantric numerology is a system that was handed down from master to student over thousands of years in India. And a lot of it is based on the idea that everything in our reality has a frequency, has a pattern. So, like, for instance, the frequency of 3 is different than the frequency of 6, or the frequency of 8 is different than the frequency even of 33. And everything has a certain um, basically pattern, like nature works on patterns. So basically, a numerology like tarot, which is actually in many ways based on a numeric frequency, but added on a storyline or symbolism or archetype, which archetype exists in numerology as well. But in tarot, it just, how should I say it? There is like an immediate entertainment that you can actually engage in your what is this archetype tells me. The same thing with numerology. What is this number or archetype? What is the story that it has to tell? And the thing is that is differentiate, for instance, a system of numerology or astrology than a tarot is that beyond the temporal divination part of system that it offers, it has the ability to actually assess a personality, assess how one makes choices, assess how one actually choose partners, assess what kind of path will make a person happy. And it has also the ability to start to look at time cycle as a prediction, where in tarot many ways I would say it shows you the energy or the underlying reality of what is happening at this point in time, and what is the consciousness that, for instance, if you are doing a reading for yourself, it's basically assess what is the consciousness that you have today or this week. But and that's has a validation on as it is on its own merit. But I would say that in terms of like a prediction in time, numerology has just that body of knowledge that you can actually use it to plan your year, use it to plan a month. So I don't know, does that make sense what I'm saying so far? Yes? No? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm just checking in. So, um, for instance, tantric numerology, I want to put these slides, but I'm going to come back as my own thing in a minute. Tantric numerology is Tantra means that as above, so below. As unseen, so is the seen. Reality is not something that is divided. whatever you have inside, you project outside. Whatever is is on the physical plane has a certain spirit to it. And I think the explanation of Tantra in general in the West is a little bit focused into the relationship or the sexual context of things, which it is true in that essence. The reality or the experience of it has a spiritual reality of it. And in this particular domain, you can practice it in a certain way. But Tantra in its essence, it means non-dual, non-dual reality. And this numeric system is a non-dual system where each vibration has different frequency. Like, I mean, the tarot, each of, if we'll go major arcana, because I dwell in tarot as well, each card in the major arcana, for instance, has a reality of light and shadow, and it has an unseen reality as well. So it's basically how the universe works. Any seen reality has an unseen vibration. And in a numeric chart, you can say whatever is your projection underneath it, there is an underlying of, you can say, behind the dashboard, what is the operating system of your soul, your particular soul, in this lifetime, basically. So, so like for instance, behind the shadow of something, there is a certain physical object, so to speak. Um, and what we see, feel, and touch is basically influenced by some sort of level of consciousness. We create a reality or interpretation of what is there. And when we look at numbers, especially at this point in time, if you don't have actually understanding of the patterns, you can say that Tantric numerology is 11 vibration of spirit that is manifesting in a certain way in a physical plane, basically. So, um, when we actually looking at the year, for instance, the number 2 is very prominent in the coming year. 2 is like what is ruling the domain of our millennium. It means balance, it means connection, it means harmony, it means um, as well as basically the potential of duality and conflict. And we see a lot of it both ways at this point in time. Like um, we see actually, we see what you call a lot of conflicts coming in, but you see also people like looking for a sense of harmony. As a matter of fact, the number 2 is going to rule our reality at least for 80 more years. Anything that the experience of the year will be, that sense of versus the sense actually too is that everything is going to move through relationship. Everything will move either when we can work together, on when there's a sense of collaboration, and in the coming years, basically, there will be a lot of issues of conflict as well as we moving through the frequencies of the different years. So I'm just talking about the number 2 at this point in time, um, because it's really a frequency that if you master it, you master connection, if you master a sense of collaborating, listening to other people, or even disagreement, having the capacity to To understand where other coming from, there's a good potential of finding a common ground to actually move ideas and plans in some different direction than what we've seen in the past. However, this year is very much about the impulsiveness of choice making and behavior. It's highly creative. So I don't know if you have a sense that everything that there's a lot of creativity going on for you. It's very creative year, actually. It's a year that is influenced by change as well. That too exists as well in the background. So the creative essence of everything will move through ideas and plans as well. So um, I'm just curious in the area of, I'm just going to ask you because you're here.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
in the area of choice making or career, where where do you find yourself this year? Because I'm going to talk a little bit more about that aspect and numbers.
Yeah. So this year I'm really embracing that I am not that like into a standard career path in the least. I've spent the last 4 or 5 years doing kind of sporadic work and traveling a lot. And
Okay.
this year I didn't travel a lot, and I still found that I wanted to keep doing side jobs and keep, to not be sort of climbing a ladder or furthering a cause or something like that, right? Um, so that's been an interesting
So you have to
choice.
stay put. So
Yeah.
that experience has actually provide you um, that you want to build something, or is that what it is? I'm just curious.
No, it's more I'm finding so there was a way in which I thought I didn't want regular employment or
Okay.
like traditional sort of career success
Okay.
because I travel in this way or because I like this level of freedom. And what I'm learning is that I like this level of freedom whether I'm traveling or not. And that
Okay.
I don't want a regular schedule and I'm not, looking for sort of to go work for someone else. So I've been,
Hmm.
yeah,
I'm just
I'm
curious.
kind of,
I mean, I'm just curious. Were you born on the 5th or the 14th or the 23rd?
I'm April 14.
Ah. You describing exactly that. I'm just saying 14, first of all, is a significant number. So in
Okay.
numerology, we have significant number. We everything is reduced in tantric numerology to 1 through 11, but 14 is a significant number on its own. And 14 or 5 in a soul position is, you can say, the archetype of freedom fighter. You can say the teacher rebel because 5 likes to teach too.
Okay.
um it's the physicality of 5 is really good in that sense. So athletic or physical, oh, you can say physical, um how should I say, resilience is there.
Okay.
However, a 5 in a soul position, in a career, I'm just going to talk to that. I'm going to talk about
Yeah.
everything in a career sense. The challenge for them is to find something that they can go commit and go deeper with, whether it's, and 5 likes to have their options open. They like, because they associate it with freedom. But it's like in the sense of what you want to find in life. Like Malcolm X, for instance, his soul was a 5. He was born on, I don't remember the months, but the daily vibration was a 5. And the daily vibration, when we look at numerology, is what actually you need to work in life in order to kind of fulfill that desire. For instance, for freedom, the desire for freedom will you need to build it up. So Malcolm X, for instance, find his freedom when he was incarcerated. Actually, in jail, actually, he found his spiritual path. He found Islam as a path for freedom, a commitment, a structure.
Right.
So I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting you need to incarcerate yourself or things like that. But the thing is, um, a Soul 5 this year especially, um, which is creative and impulsive this year, what we'll put into test is its commitment to one pointedness and to a vision that you can stay the course. To some um like for instance, and some of the areas, and it's interesting because the influencing number this year 2021 is a 5. So that
Right.
rebelling side of things exists this year. The sometimes it's rebelling against what is best for yourself too. You laughing? Yeah, right.
Yes.
uh so it's like areas that will benefit, for instance, in career this year will be like areas of visual creativity, self-expression. 5 is communication, aspect of communication, aspects of 5 is the physical body as well. So anything that is physical training or teaching, 5 is teaching especially in realm of the creative arts, or um, also 3 has to do with food, which is a 3-year this year. So in the areas of
And
food,
where does
huh?
that idea of like it, where does it being a 3-year come from?
Well,
So
that's
why is it
that's
a
that's the
three
whole
year?
thing. Yes, you have to come for 13
Okay.
weeks
Okay.
for
Sure. Okay.
for
That level. All right.
yeah. I mean, here's the thing: in certificate program for Tantric Numerology, we will go through a whole. Um, I mean, I'm gonna share it in a second what it's include, but it's like it's basically going. There's a vocabulary of number. There's a vocabulary of
Mm.
archetype. There's also what we call transformer numbers, which is like the numbers that actually, if you have a challenge, what will be the energy or the patterns that you need to actually invest yourself in order to shift a challenge into opportunity, right? And then there's a whole thing about time cycles and how to build a chart too. So, I'm just saying that this year has to do a lot with food as well, has to do with nurturing, has to do with play, because 3 is about playing. 5 is about movement too, but 5 actually, that 5 comes from past life. So you will see, and we see it in the past couple of weeks, since the beginning of the year, the rebellious side of humans, whether you judge it right or left, in the political spectrum, is there. The rebellious pattern against the system, against what was, uh, because we want something different, is active this year. So if you have that 5 in the soul position, it's probably activating it too, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Is that true for you? I'm
Yeah.
just curious.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So um it's really a fascinating year, because it's like whatever our choices in terms of like choice making and career, it's all about how we activated in our own patterns at this point in time. By the way, just for you, 14 is actually is a time is a challenging number because at time the criteria for choice making many times is, do I have enough options here?
Mm,
Are my options open? So that's like something, and I'm not saying it can be good as well, but that's not what needs to be a choice making. Choice making is like what makes you fulfill, what makes you happy, and what will be the ability or the system that support that. By the way, a five in a soul position is needs to move all the time, and a five in that position, a 9 to 5 is not an option in terms of career.
right. Yeah.
You agree?
I'm pretty hip to that. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool, that's great. um
Yeah, I came up against that recently where there was a really amazing nonprofit that was hiring a position I was like very qualified for. And I really was like, this is the one thing I'd be willing to work this schedule for, right? And then when I didn't get the job, I was so relieved. Like, oh, this is
but
very
it's
informative.
like you probably it was a non-for-profit that was for a cause, because five
Oh,
has the
absolutely.
rebel for a cause that you would be fine for it.
Yeah.
It would make you happy,
I
right?
mean, that's in ways. Yeah. That's the only other time I've had sort of a regular salaried position was for Food for Thought, the food bank in Forestville, the AIDS food bank. And
All right,
um,
okay, yeah, so
but they
you,
really let me write my own ticket. They were like, if you
right.
raise X amount of money and do X amount of work, you can do that whenever you want, you little weirdo. And I was like, thanks. See you later. Here's your money. So
That's
we'll
exactly
see.
what, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's like the options. I'm just curious, do you have any other questions of other numbers in terms of like career paths or things like that? I'm curious
Um,
because you're here. I mean, I can go through.
yeah, no, I'm kind of here to soak up whatever was on offer today because I really know, I mean, nothing about the tantric numerology system, right? So, um, I don't know if there's anything I'm curious about specific numbers.
Like, do you
I
have other
really,
other people that actually, um, I don't know, maybe were born in a certain day and that's their things to work on?
mm, I don't know. I'm a 14 Aries. I don't have questions about other people,
I
right?
don't know, actually.
I don't know. Maybe I do. Um, no, I mean, the one thing I'm most curious about, and I absolutely hear you when you say it's a deep dive and what the class is for, is where these ideas like it's a 3 year come because I listen to your videos usually, your kind of
Okay,
numerology
all right.
updates.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so you'll say, there's a, 7 is very prevalent this week. And I'm like, why is 7 prevalent this week? Right. So that's usually that's where my
right.
curiosity generally
Why?
lies. Is I'm like, where did that come from? I can understand this year being a 5 because it's 2021, but like, why is it a 3? So
Right, right.
that's where most of my curiosity, the questions I know I have are those.
So
Um,
you want to know what's behind, why is it work? So you the perfect person to be in this course, actually. Um, I mean, I will say that. Um, so, for instance, there is like, if I'm just gonna show up, uh, so I'm just gonna, um, let me just share this slide, what it's about. Um, so, for instance, the core skeletal is like, it's building up really. I would say the ability to actually use the system and help people and assess where people are at, assess where it's really like to it's so helpful, actually. It's basically history, it's the 11 bodies of consciousness, which 11 patterns of numbers, how to build a chart, a numeric chart. Everything is based on your birthday, basically. significant numbers, I said 14. 14, like for instance, significant number is is like a time the illusionary side in a physical form. So for instance, no rushing is a mantra for you. it's it's um its movement has to happen on a daily basis, like otherwise it's become mental charge. So movement is really important, especially for a five. um and but in terms of like the skeletal of thing, then there is like chart structure, what is what are time cycle, um what the universal and the personal year, because there's a universal year based on the year, right? We all in that boat, but you yourself, you have a certain cyclical patterns that you move by. So what is this
Mm.
year, for instance, for you? What is the pattern and the influencing pattern that you move by, for instance? um then there is like monthly time cycle, weekly time, and you can even figure a daily time cycle for yourself. What will be the thing to focus on? And then there's like a whole, because it's numerology, there's an additional application, like a home number, what kind of vibration it has. A phone number, what does your phone number invite? Does it invite in seclusion, or it's inviting relationship and communication, for instance?
Huh. Yeah.
And so it's 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 one of the few actually numeric system that is, I would say, a full system. But I'm just going to give you a little bit like a kind of a teaser of what, for instance, in um, let's say in um, this is some, for instance, um, what it is like the patterns in numbers. We're going to go just really kind of up the surface. What is it in terms of like choice making and career this year? For instance, somebody who was born either on the first or the 10th, not the 10th, the first, because 1 and 10 is different in this
Mm.
system. um but for instance, for 1, which is represent like it's the character archetype of the pioneer, you can say the inventor, the cowboy. It's this year, for instance, is about overcoming past based oppressions, for instance. um it's about opportunity in creating some new ideas and creating some and actually taking greater risk this year. um Yet weighing the pros and cons when you actually have a choice in terms of like inventing something, because this year is very impulsive. So you need to actually really weigh the pros and cons between, is this the right timing for me to step in, or do I need to actually really
Mm.
have a plan for some sort? Now, for instance, soul of 2, which is like the archetype of the diplomat or the matchmaker, connector, protector, can be also Mr. Two-Faced, because twos a lot of time create their own conflicts. So for a 2, somebody was born the 20th, the second, the um yeah, the 20th, the second, is like they need to actually basically move things through harmony with other people. It's 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 actually, especially in the areas, I would say, of food and nurturing, it's about actually offering and helping other people to nurture themselves better. A 2 will be good at that, because it's about 2 is about somebody who can project enough trust to get people to trust them in, especially in the area of counseling and suggesting things. And and a three this year is very triggered because three, the archetype of like choice or direction, has to do with like characters of the entertainer, the drama queen, you can say, or the drama king, actor, artist, the chef, because three is about nurturing. But three is also social butterfly. This year is very social in its activity and desire to connect. Um, so these are some of the area and choice making that the three soul will thrive on this year. Um, and then when we go to a four, or somebody was born on the 13th or the 31st, um, it's somebody who very good with structure, and we need these people because it's the archetype of the builder, social worker, architect, planner. We need these people to create some sort of structure and form to make sense of all these impulsiveness that we're going through. And then we have the five, which is freedom fighter. You can say the guru rebel, the teacher rebel, a teacher, the merchant. Very good. I mean, fives knows how to wheel and deal at times. At times, if they're not impulsive. So, especially this year, has is a lot about, and five is change. Five is about movement. So I'm actually give you a lot of kudos for actually being okay being in one place, because is that was a challenge. I'll say that.
It sure was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So five likes to move around, and there's going to be a lot of movement this year. But it's also areas of teaching, areas of I would say physical teaching or physical activity, yoga teachers. People like that will do well, or in that sense, because five is the physical body. And it's interesting, we're going to six. Six has more of the archetype of, you can say, the lawyer, the artist, community organizer, the psychic. Six is the third eye point. So all numbers has also that aspect that is associated with health and healing. It's not just the vibration of personality, but there are certain points and triggers that are associated with health, healing, and what one needs to practice in order to, like for instance, for a six, in a soul position, we were born on the 6th or the 15th um, of the months, the meditation is a must. It's not like it's like for a five, a movement is a must, and for a six, meditation is a non-negotiable thing. And then in the six this year, will it's a double three, so there's a lot of creativity there. There's a lot of actually aspect of uh, social justice and fairness will be a big topic. Lawyers will do in that those areas will make their mark. Um, and when we're going into the vibration of seven, seven is actually is an interesting vibration. Somebody was born the seventh or the 16th or the 20. I mean, by the way, a six is somebody was born 24, seven, somebody was born on the 25th of the month. Can be somebody more spiritual. It's like the philosopher, the spiritualist, the detective, somebody who's good with music, composer, analyst, or therapist, you can say. So I would say This year is much more uh, in terms of analytical, especially in the areas of like, for instance, food, in terms of like um, travel, those areas that has much more of an analytical side to them that will activate those sevens, but also spiritual work, like, is going to be much more needed just to kind of get off the impulsive side of things. um and then as we're going to an eight has to do with the archetype of the manager, has to do with the archetype of the healer, power broker, entrepreneur, aspect of money. And there is some aspect of money this year. There is some eight there in an asset position. So if you're good with the ideas of money and how to make it or make it useful, um, it's if you work with other people, it's a very beneficial year in that sense. And then as we're going to the last number in from 1 to 9, which is a nine, nine is the archetype of the mystic or the interior designer, the curator, cosmic caretaker, scientists. Um, so those nines will actually will actually do well. This it's a guy. It's again. It's a triple three. Um, so this year is the aspect of being a little bit being more flexible in choice making, completing things. Um, it will be helpful for nine to have a balanced communication because nine is the subtle body. So nine can be very reactive in many ways. And then we're going to a 10, which is like a higher, not a higher, a greater vibration of a one. Um, you can say a 10 is more of the archetype of the leader, CEO. uh, and this year is a lot about flexibility, and somebody who's a 10 like to have certain thing in a certain way, and that can cause a lot of friction and trouble for them. So uh, for a 10, advice in career and choice making is avoid a strict point of view, or and be more flexible, adaptable to lead, actually, to kind of get a little bit dirty. I'm talking about your hand dirty versus make sure that everything is perfect, because there's no really perfect, and 10 a lot of time get caught in perfection. And then the amalgamation of a lot of qualities of all the numbers in an 11. 11 is a higher vibration of 2, and it's about a spiritual leader. Sometimes can be a fanatic. Um, and the thing is, the 11, especially in the year, any of these 2000s, needs to be a little bit much more inclusive versus strict about the ideals and values. Um, so trust needs to be trusting in spirit, because 11, somebody who was born the 11th of the months, have issues of trust and has issues of committing to some sort of a past that inspires them. So this is really a good year because it's a creative year to actually collect data for 11, to check out what areas are inspiring for them, and actually what areas they can commit to and choose more wholeheartedly, you can say. So I just went to such a menagerie, high level of these frequencies in that domain. Um, did that makes any sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Mm, hmm. I'm no, do I have any questions? I mean, could we look at these archetypes as they sort of apply to days in a month, or is that isn't too
Absolutely.
specific? Or
Yeah,
yeah, we
yeah,
do, right? So we say
yeah.
that
Ab-
today is the first, and so
yeah, the
that
first
energy is
has
going to be in its
that
place.
energy too. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but that's more like the container or the time cycle, because there's the way somebody operating that will be different in some other ways. Let's put it this way.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Um, any other question?
No, I think that's it. I just was curious about. I'm always curious about archetypes. I have a friend who's an archetypal astrologist, so I have some kind of understanding of planetary archetypes, and
Yeah,
so it's anytime I
it's
can add a layer and something to sort of look across to, it's always fun.
absolutely. And I would say that
Yeah.
tarot in its bare essence is a numeric system, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a certain frequencies to it as well.
Right.
So I'm just gonna. I mean, actually, I actually want you to. So next training, I'm just gonna make that announcement. For instance, next
Sure.
training is is going to be starting on 15th of April. There's gonna be a free orientation next Thursday. Um, and there's a payment system, and there's it's basically we're gonna dive into that, and each I would say week there's a specific module, there is a specific um handouts material. A lot of it is actually you wouldn't find it in books actually.
Okay.
uh, and and that's what makes it really unique. I'm actually working now on a book about the whole system and how it works.
Cool.
But um and the reason I'm still doing it in person is because I do believe that
Oh,
um
it's in person.
oh yeah,
Oh,
it's
great. Okay, so where is it and what's happening?
no
Because that's
it's
what I
it
basically was looking at. I was like,
oh I mean it's
or do you mean live over the internet
live.
or how? Yeah.
It's live.
Okay.
It's live. I mean, if it
Right.
was, yeah, it's live.
Okay.
Because I do feel that it needs to be as it just works better, and I feel just much more in tune, because it's like you're a person, you have a certain quality, and you bring a certain quality to the course itself as well. So it's
Right.
like it's just needs to be in that manner. I mean, I see a lot of courses actually done automatically, and I think it's also in person means that it's live. It's going to be recorded, so if you miss something, you can actually always jump in and
Okay.
listen to it, and kind of you're going to have fun homework every week. Fun, I mean, really fun, because when you start to look at other people, when you start to look at even like archetype of what you see in terms of character in a movie, you start to actually look at these characteristics from a different point of view. You're gonna
Sure.
like within 3 or 4 weeks, you're gonna be able to start to actually do the basics calculation as well. It's basically how somebody make choices, what likely somebody's destiny will be, what is the thing that actually you have a certain vibration that you feel happy with, and it's not what your day is. um
Right.
and basically kind of start to notice what you provide other people and what other people sees in you as well. And there's component in a chart also what you brought from past life, because from past life there's something that you're comfortable about, your soul is comfortable about regenerating things that you um, worked for many lifetimes, but in this lifetime this is not something to focus on, for instance. It's something
Mm-hmm.
that works for you as well.
Interesting.
And I think I hope that was worth your time, and I appreciate you coming in. I'm just gonna pause the recording for a
Sure.
second.